T, this one, and it is under the action of a moment. So now you should be able to design it, which I will do for as we go further. Okay, so now to design the cross section of lever. That means B and T. Let's try to now find out the cross section B and T. Now, as you see here, it is something like this. There is a part like this, fixed here. You are applying a load P, distance is L, and then this cross section here is B by T. And you are asked to design. Now how you will do this is very easy, because we know there is a moment applied M, and this moment is P into L. So the equation is Ft design is equal to M upon Z, where M is P into L and Z is 1/6 of TB square. 1/6 of TB square. Now this is a design equation, we have used this earlier also. So in this equation you will find, now B is in terms of T. So only T is unknown. So if you fix up all the values, you can easily find how much is T and then how much is B. So write P value, write L, and then Ft design is given, and you can design the cross section over here. Now you will wonder that force is applied here, this cross section is not here, it is here, we are taking distance L, but then the cross section is here, and then after that there is something else. So why are we taking, why not we are taking this distance? Now that will be very, very accurate if you want to take, because that is really a distance. But then to find this out, maybe you will have to do some calculations. Instead of that, L is available, and by using a larger distance you are increasing the M. By taking the value of L, which is large than actual, the moment you are taking is large than actual. So if you are taking the larger value, that means you are trying to design it for a larger amount of moment. That means you are designing for the case which is worse than existing, which is better. So no problem, you can do this and get the value. You know, we have seen many times, we have done some adjustments, we have done rounding, etc. So that way the sizes keep changing, but then always they are on the safer side. So whatever we do, that is all on the safer side. First of all, this Ft design itself is obtained by reducing the actual value of stress by a certain amount by applying the factor of safety. So when you say this is 80, that means actually it must be, if the factor of safety is 2, it must be 160 is the amount of stress where the yielding will take, where the stretching, etc. That means the failure will take place at 160, but we are not using 160, we are using 80. So that way also there is some variation. So all such variations are allowed. So you can say instead of L, you can call, instead of this distance, you can call L, and still everything is fine, because we are making the things safer. Okay, so at this stage we have found out T and B also. So now what is remaining is D1. That means the diameter, this one, how to find out that. And here now when we go further, you will find we are doing something which is new. Right here, to find diameter D2 of a shaft. So you see the same shaft is given one step, the diameter is increased from D to D1, and then this D1 part is supported into some kind of a frame. So this could be a frame, fixed frame, in which there is a hole and then the shaft is coming out, and then you attach this, and then there could be some machine here and whatever which you want to rotate, some object which you want to rotate. Now what we are supposed to think about this diameter while designing the diameter D1, what are we going to think about its design? So what do we think normally? Which any part which you want to design, first we think how it is going to fail. I'll repeat, any part when you want to design or any dimension you want to find out, we want to find out, we see what is the importance of that diameter, that size, that dimension, what that dimension is doing, what kind of stress that dimension is experiencing. Based on that, we form the equation. So we find out whatever we are doing, the external parameter, that is what we are applying, what is going to be the effect of all this. See, everything is happening because of this P. If P is not there, that is no load, then nothing will fail. And you can make this out of cotton also or thermocol also, because there is no load. But then there is some load, that load you want to bear, all the dimensions which are there, they should bear this load. For that you have to design everything. So coming to this D1 diameter, what is the role of this D1 diameter when the load is applied like this? What kind of stresses are developed on D1 when the load is applied like this? That is what we have to think. Now, what will happen to D1? One thing is there, because of this load, the way this diameter D was getting twisted, earlier I have shown you that because of this lever, when you apply force, this is going to twist. So this diameter in the top view, if you see, this diameter is going to twist. Based on that, we have written some earlier equation. So one thing is, this diameter is under twist, so this diameter is also going to be under the twisting action. So there is a torque acting on this diameter D1, same as the torque that is acting on D. So like D, D1 is also experiencing a torque which is equal to P into L. So I'll write here torque on D1 is equal to, I'll call it as T, which is P into L. Torque on D1 is this. Torque on D1 is this, on this diameter. Is that the only thing acting or anything else? Now last time if you see, on this diameter D, there was same torque acting which we have taken, and then we have gone ahead with this T itself. And then we have written the equation that pi d cube by 16 into F shear stress equal to torque. And then we have found out the diameter sometimes back, this diameter. That time, this torque was acting in the same, at the center of the shaft. So its effect was only torque. That means this particular part was experiencing, diameter was experiencing only torque. Now what happens to this diameter D1? The force is applied here. In this case, the force was applied in the plane of the CG of this diameter. Now the CG of this diameter is here. And this force is not applied here in its level. It is applied somewhere else. That means the force is applied slightly outside. But because it is applied outside by an amount equal to L, we have to design L also, and L is given. So because it is applied at distance of L, it is going to cause a moment also. So now see, I'll just show you again here. This diameter, I'm showing like this, the diameter, okay, then there's a lever. Now D1 is here, let's say D1 is here, so it is, this D1 is supported like this, there's a support, there's a support, in the support there's a diameter D1, and then after that there's a diameter D, is a smaller diameter. Here there's a lever, and then I'm applying a force here. So when I'm applying a force here, I'll just show like this. When I apply a force like this, then one thing we already saying that P into this L, capital L, that is causing a torque on this also and on this D1 also. So D1 is experiencing torque, P into capital L we are written. Now what we also see is, because of this distance L, this P is not applied here, it is applied here. So because it is applied slightly outside, it is going to cause a moment. You can see here, when I apply this P instead of here, if I apply here, what will happen? It will cause a moment. As you can see here, it will cause a moment because of this distance. It can also be proved by some other way. See, I'll just show only this much. Let's say it is supported here, and then this is where P is applied at a distance of L. Just try to understand the concept. This distance is L. Okay. We are designing this D1 which is here. Now this P into L is applying a torque. P into L is applying a torque which we have accepted. Now this P into this L is going to apply moment, and we are trying to understand how. Now for understanding how, what I'll do is, I will add here two such forces of this size. That means on this lever here, I am going to apply, say like in this example, earlier example, when I am applying here P, I am also applying, when I am applying P here, I am also applying two P's, one P like this, one P like this. So now there are total three forces, P here, and P here. Now because I am applying this P and this P, both are nullifying. So it is as good as I have not done anything. So although I have applied two forces, They are equal and opposite, so they are not doing anything. So only one force is applied as such. But now after doing this, what I am now saying is that instead of saying that only one force is acting on this lever, I am saying there is this force acting, and these two forces with this distance, they are going to form a torque, which we have already taken into account. So like that, if you see here, these two, like this, they are applying a torque P into L, and this is the one which is now remaining. So this and this is applying a torque phi, that is taken, and this which is remaining out of the three forces, 1, 2 and 3, we have clubbed together these two forces and got the result that they two are applying torque. Now what this force is doing? It is causing a bending. You can see it is causing a bending. Now how much is bending? Bending moment P into this distance. So P into small l is the amount of bending which is acting on this. So by all this exercise, what we are finally concluding is torque on D1 is this. Similarly, I'll write here moment, which is M, again that is also on D1, is equal to P into small l. So this P into this small l, this P applied here and this distance small l is causing this part to bend, like what I have shown here. So P into small l is what it is causing the bending action, and that is going to cause this. So if I draw, let's say a side view, this is a top view, this is the front view. If I draw a view from the other side, then that view will come something like this, where this is the this is D1, then here there is D, force is applied here P, and this is the support. It means this plane and this plane. Now this is this line and this is here. So this is small l. I am drawing side view. So like this, what you are seeing from here. So this is the distance L. You are applying P like this. This is the support. So I am taking this point as a support. So the distance is measured like this. So this P acting at a distance of L, that is causing a moment M. So this M is P into small l, like this. So having seen this, now what it says on this diameter, our question was, this diameter is experiencing what kind of load? So the answer now we have obtained, this diameter is experiencing a torque which is P into L, and it is also experiencing a moment which is P into small l. Moment P into small l, torque P into capital L. So the same section, this cross section here, this cross section is getting a moment, this cross section is getting a twist also, that means torque also, and is getting bend also like this as a moment. So same cross section is experiencing torque and moment. Now what do we do when such thing happens? That is what we will now see. Now if you remember long back when we have learned different types of stresses, that time we have come across principal stresses. You might have also seen this during your earlier strength of materials time when you learned. That time also you have come across principal stresses, and what it says is when a particular part, any section, is subjected to two types of stresses, one is shear and other is bending or tensile, then that is a place where principal stresses come into picture. What it means is, whenever a part is subjected to these two, tensile and I'll just write here, Ft and F shear on same section, then when Ft and F shear are acting on same section at same place at same resisting area, then you cannot add the two. These two stresses are of different type. You can add tension with compression. Ft can be added with Fc. In fact, they will subtract each other because Ft is tensile, F compression is a compressive, but then still they are of same type in the sense they are perpendicular to the resisting area. Tensile stress or other tensile load and compressive load, they are all perpendicular. And shear stress is something which is along the plane. So if the cross section is subjected to tensile as well as shear, these two are of different type. Although they are acting on the same area, they are not similar. One is perpendicular, one is parallel. So we have to consider in that case what is called as a principal stress. I'll write here a principal, FT principal, a tensile stress of a principal type, or in some cases, not here, it is a compressive stress, let's see, of principal type. So principal compressive stress or principal tensile stress will come into picture when a same section is experiencing tensile stress and shear stress together. That is the rule. So this is happening here. This particular cross section D1 is experiencing shear stress. Now torque will be causing shear stress, and moment we have already seen last time, long back, when there is a beam like this, supported like this, when you apply load, it is bending, and bending means it is developing tensile stress and compressive stress. So like that here, this particular part is subjected to bending stress because of M, shear stress because of T, both at the same place. So when both stresses come together for a same section like D1, then you have to take into account principal stresses. Okay, and along with this, another stress is F shear maximum. F shear maximum. So what this means is, there is one formula which also we have written sometimes back. What it says, Ft principal is equal to, there is one formula for that. Ft principal is half of Ft plus square root of Ft square plus 4 times shear square. And then F shear max is equal to half of that means we combine these two, but not by just a plus or just minus. These two we combine by this equation. You can see here Ft is there in the equation, F shear is also there in the equation, but it is combined by this formula. So we have combined it, but by some different formula. Similarly, we have combined this, but by some different formula to get Ft principal and to get F shear maximum. So when again I am repeating, when these two stresses are acting at a time, then in the design equation, instead of using this stress or this stress, like what we have done for many other places, instead of doing this, we combine them by this equation and then use principal stress in the design equation. We combine them by this kind of method and then use the principal stress for the purpose of design, or the shear maximum stress for the design. That is what the rule says. Okay. So in our case, we are doing the same thing, and we are getting one more formula based on this, which is same. We are applying same thing, but the derivation of that formula, which I am now going to write here, will be of a simpler type for our purpose. For our purpose, the simpler version of this same thing is what I am going to write here. Okay, so before I write here, just try to understand it in one more different way. What this equation means. Already we have seen, instead of considering the addition of these two, we combine them by this equation and get the principal stress which we use for the design equation. Now what it means is, it is like saying that on this part, on this section, instead of saying Ft and F shear is acting, which is really acting on this is also acting, this is also acting, but what we say, these two are now not acting, this is acting, which is of course made up of this is acting, which is doing the same thing what these two are doing together. So whatever these two are doing together, one is tensile stress, one is shear stress, what these two stresses are doing together, that thing will be done by only one tensile stress, no shear stress, and that tensile stress is called as principal stress. So that makes the work easier. Instead of considering two, we consider only tensile stress, the name is different, and that is consisting of both of them, and then we call this as tensile principal stress and go further. Or other ways, or we say that, again I am saying similar things, we can say that instead of, on this section, instead of this tensile stress and shear stress, both of them acting, we say that only shear stress is acting, no tensile stress is acting, but that shear stress is equal to this combination. So this shear stress is equal to this combination. So we have taken both of them together and called as equivalent stress of shear type, which is giving you similar effect what these two are giving. So that means these two stresses, what are they? These stresses what we have designated here, when tensile and shear stresses come at a time and we cannot add them, we combine them by this method, and by combining we find out equivalent tensile stress and equivalent shear stress, saying that, I am repeating, instead of these two stresses, only tensile stress is acting, which is this much, and doing the same thing alone as a tensile stress, what these two are doing together. Another approach is, we say that only shear stress is acting on a component and it is doing same thing what these two things are acting at a time and doing, by combining them by this method. Okay, so that is the way you can look at it, look at this equation. Okay, so now having understood this much, now let me write a formula which is easy for our purpose. So that formula is like this. I'll write here M equivalent is equal to half of M plus square root of M square plus T square, and T equivalent is equal to square root of T square plus . Now this formula is derived from this only. This is derived from this only, which you can get from the book. I am just ready-made using it. Now what this says, this is going to say same thing as what this is saying. So whatever I explained here, same thing now becomes applicable here. What it means? Now let's just see what we say. On this section, we know that on this section what is acting? Torque is acting, this much amount. Moment is acting, this much amount. So on the same section, there is T acting, there is M acting. And they are of course producing these two things, which you cannot combine. But then you can combine like this as stresses. So you can combine the stresses like this, you can combining this T, you can combine T and M also. Although they are of different type, you can combine them. So when you do that, you combine by this equation. And what this equation means, now listen, instead of, on this section, instead of there is T acting and instead of M acting, so instead of T and M acting together, we say that only M acting, no T. So that means this section is